now it's recording, and I'll leave it like that. And when you move, I will...
Kill me.
No, I won't. I will just then move the camera. So, where are you from originally?
From Hattingen an der Ruhr.
And there you were.
That's West Germany.
Yes, I know. Mm-hmm. And when were you born there?
19th of May, 1927.
Right. And did you have brothers and sisters there?
Yes, I had a brother.
And was he older or younger than you were?
Older, 2 years older.
Uh-huh. And what do you remember of your childhood in Hattingen?
We were spoiled children.
Spoiled?
Very spoiled. Came from a very wealthy home, very highly respected, and that's about all I can tell you.
Were you very traditional? Were your parents very religious?
Not at all.
Sort of a very assimilated. Yeah. What was your father's profession then?
He was a dentist.
And did your mother work?
Not at all.
Not at all. And in which way were you spoiled?
In every way, whatever we wanted. I had a perambulator.
A what?
Pram. I don't know what you people call it.
A pram, oh yeah.
A pram for my doll. And it was enormously big, so when the maid brought us home from our walk, the young gentleman used to come in and you said, "Let me help you," because they thought it was a baby inside.
A real one.
Yeah, but it's got very bad reflection on my later life.
Why?
Because when I was at the Kindertransport camp at Dovercourt, a parson came and he wanted to take me to his house and he gave me a doll, and it was the first doll I'd held since I left home. And when I refused to go with him because I wanted my brother to join me, he took the doll away from me.
Oh really?
Great heartache.
Oh. I can imagine.
So I think it had a bad psychological effect on me.
And were your parents, I mean, did you have Hanukkah or did you have Christmas? Or?
Yes, we had both. We had Hanukkah and Christmas because we had 2 German maids, and obviously my parents gave them presents for Christmas, so I was accustomed to it as well.
And did you have a Christmas tree?
Yes, a little Christmas tree, small one. And, you know, we had New Year's parties.
And did your mother light the candle on Friday?
No,
that
never.
Was not
Not
so
at
good.
all. I never saw it at all.
Right.
But I do it for my, I mean, I did it at, later on, you know, for my own children. I always light my candles on a Friday night.
And you still do?
Yes, all the time.
Good. And do you remember when the year 33, the year 33 or?
1933. I was 6 years old, and I happened to be going to school on the day where Hitler put the Nazis in front of all the shops and stores. And I don't know if you've heard of the Schultüte.
Yes, of course.
You know, in Germany that's habit that the mother brings a Schultüte, which is like a horn of plenty. And my mother begged me not to make a spectacle of this. She said, "Please, can I give it to you at home?" And I said, "No, definitely not. I won't go to school unless you bring me the tutor." So on coming home, one of the SS was standing outside my father's praxis. And I happened to know this gentleman, so I quickly opened my lace-filled tutor and offered it to this gentleman, and he clicked his heels and disappeared.
Very good. And then at school, did you?
No, as I told you, my parents were very well respected, so I actually very little. You know, occasionally somebody threw a stone and called me Jew, but I can't really complain.
And your parents were well respected in the village? They were
very well respected.
Yeah. Was your father also part of the city council or village council?
No, he maintained he couldn't leave the country. First of all, he would have had to study again. And secondly, he had the Iron Cross from the Second World War.
From the First World War?
From the First World War, sorry. And he maintained, or people told him, don't worry, nothing can happen to you. Then we experienced Kristallnacht.
Do you remember Kristallnacht?
Oh, I don't think anybody can forget it. We heard the troops marching towards the synagogue next door to us, and they started burning it and shouting making terrible noise next door to us, and then they started throwing stones into our windows. We were right next door to the synagogue. And my mother got very nervous and she evacuated us to the attic of the house. And
you and your brother? Or?
My brother and myself. And I think we were all on the attic when at 6 o'clock in the morning they arrested my father. They came into the house, they bashed up absolutely everything. I remember my mother having beautiful Rosenthal crockery and everything. We just heard everything bashed in the cupboards, pushed on top of it. And the next morning, as I told you, they arrested my father. We didn't have beds or anything. They topped everything. My mother took us to Gentile friends and hired my brother and me. And I'm, being a very naughty girl, had to put my long nose outside. And the baker saw me. And he threatened our maid that if she doesn't get rid of the Jewish children, he will have us all killed. So the maid sent for my mother, and at night, I think, in the town, we were taken back to the house. My mother, by that time, had tidied up a little bit. And I think through an aunt of mine in Paris, she heard about the Kindertransport, and she prepared us slowly. She said, look, you two kids must leave, and we will follow you. And the day came, and she packed our suitcase, and we were taken to a station. No one was allowed on the station to say goodbye to us.
Were you taken to Stuttgart station?
No, it was, I think, Bielefeld, but I'm not sure.
And which day was it? You remember that?
Around about the 2nd or 3rd of December.
So it was briefly after
1938.
Very quickly.
I was one of the first Kindertransport to go.
And were there other children of your village?
No, nobody, just my brother and myself. And my mother made us promise that we stay together, that we are not to be separated, which gave complications later on, you know, at the camp. And that's how we went off, hoping for the best.
So were your parents allowed at the platform?
My father was still in a concentration camp. No Jewish mother was allowed on the platform. My father, I think, went to Dachau.
And what happened to him?
He came out, I think the first day of Hanukkah. But we were celebrating Hanukkah in England already, and we had a card to say he was delighted to hear that we had been sent out.
Oh, good.
And I can't remember much of the trip. I remember the train going towards the Hook of Holland, and the Nazis coming onto the train. And our maid said, give the children, lock up, you know, money and diamonds into their coats. And my mother said, I'll do nothing of the sort. So the only thing I really rescued was a coral necklace.
And you still have it?
I've still got that.
Oh.
And we went, the Nazis did come onto the train at the border. They took my suitcase and just emptied it out politely. And I mean, it was packed very, you know, everything possible she had put into the case, my mother. And I started to cry. I said, I'll never be able to pack my suitcase. So the Red Cross and the Hollands ladies did come onto the train and they repacked my suitcase. But I don't remember going through Holland. And I remember vaguely getting onto the boat.
Was it night then? Do you remember?
Nighttime, that's definitely nighttime. And waking up the next morning, I think there was like a noise on the boat and we woke up. And I don't even remember getting off the boat or going by train to London.
So you don't remember the holiday
Nothing
camp
at all.
either?
Nothing, I've got
How old were you then? 11?
11. And I don't even remember that I was selected to go to Dovercourt. All I remember coming to Dovercourt and being given a room there. It was bitterly cold.
But you shared a room, I suppose.
I think 3 or 4 girls shared. I think we were in bunks. And I did a documentary for the BBC. They came round and said, anybody speaks English here? And I said, yes, I could speak a little English. And
how come you spoke English?
I learned it at high school.
Ah, yeah.
And actually to get into high school in Germany, if there was more than one Jewish child, we had to write entrance exams, which I passed. And I think I was learning French already. I was in Quinta, as they call it.
Oh, yeah. So the BBC came to Dovercourt.
To Dovercourt, and they said anybody can speak English here, and I thought I could speak English. And then he said, you better come along with us. And I said, no, I'm not allowed to go with strangers. And I was assured it wasn't a stranger, that they were from the BBC. I've got part of the documentary at home.
You still have it?
Yes. It's a long story. We went overseas from Johannesburg back to London. My husband went to the BBC. And we had a lot of problems getting the documentary. But eventually they gave me part of it where I'm speaking.
Oh, and what
My
did you
parents heard it in 1939, in February, I think. It was an appeal to World Jewry for funds for the refugees.
The Baldwin Fund? Was it the Baldwin Fund? No.
No idea.
And your parents heard it?
Yeah, they heard it in Germany. It was very upsetting, apparently, for them.
Right. And you remember what you said on the...
I had a,
appeal?
I don't quite like a duet, a Zwiegespräch with another girl from Westphalia, and she asked me how do I feel to be in England, and I remember saying I'm very proud to be in England now, something to that effect. And I said I'm at school and I'm learning, trying to learn as much as possible.
And so you stayed in the camp, in the
camp.
Holiday camp.
I think we were there for about 2 weeks. We learned to sing, I can't remember, you know, all the English songs, and it made us play table tennis. And we put on a play how the English families came and selected the blue-eyed children and the fair hair, and it was actually very funny. And then eventually they got fed up with me because I wanted to be kept together with my brother. And we were sent to Bunscourt School, which I think you know is quite famous by now.
Anna Essinger.
Anna Essinger.
Yeah. So you came there with your brother?
With my brother.
And do you know why you came there?
No idea. And then apparently I was under Lord Gorrell, who I never met. And we were evacuated. The first bombs fell near us.
Hang on, at Bunscourt, did you stay in a family or did you stay in the hostel?
No, Bunscourt wasn't families. It was 5, 6 children in a dormitory. And Anna Essinger wasn't very happy with me at all. She thought I was very depressed and, you know, nothing would come out of me. I did my schoolwork and whatever domestic work she demanded of us. But she kept saying, I'm holding back and it's not good, it must come out. And
She said that to you?
Yes,
And what did you think
we
about
were
it?
at war all the time, Anna and me. I didn't know what she wanted and what she expected of me. My mother had told me not to talk about my experiences, and she objected to that very strongly.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I had nightmares of the crystal night, and I don't know what she expected of me. Even today I can't quite understand what she really expected of me.
Did she speak German to you or English?
We weren't allowed to speak German,
Oh, right.
but we did amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
And then the first bombs were dropped very close by, and we were evacuated to Shrewsbury.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't quite remember the story there, but when I turned 14, I was told to go to work because the committee stopped paying for us.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me to do war work, nursing, domestic. There were various options. And I saw in a magazine that a nursery was looking for nursery nurses. And I applied, and at the age of 15 I started doing nursery nursing in Hagley.
Where's Hagley?
Hagley near Stourbridge, near Kidderminster.
Uh-huh.
Famous carpets.
But you weren't together with your brother then anymore?
My brother left before me because the same had happened to him, and he actually at 16 wanted to join the army or the navy or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the only next of kin, and I wouldn't sign for him. He was very annoyed with me. And he eventually joined the British forces and went over at Dunkirk and went back into Germany. And I went for 2 years, did my nursery nurse's diploma. And I can tell you, I was at this reunion 5 years ago in Israel, Kindertransport reunion. And from there I flew back to Birmingham, and I met some of the nurses I did nursing with. And said, Gita, what were you doing in Israel? And I said, we had a reunion of the Kindertransport. These all being Gentile girls. They said, but Gita, we don't understand. What did you used to do with your free time at the nursery, at weekends, or if you had holiday? And I used to tell them that I was stayed in my room, and they were most upset with me. Said, had we only known, we would have taken you home with us. And, you know, anyway, I wouldn't talk.
But you were completely on your own while you were being taught nursery nursing?
Look, I was friendly with the girls, but I didn't talk or relate to them, you know, what had happened to me.
Did you have any contact then with your brother at that time?
Well, my brother was already in the army.
So you were out of touch?
More or less, yes. He sent me little field cards. You know, I don't remember. I've got them at home. I don't quite remember what it said. Anyway.
Were you somehow in touch with the committee of the...
Not at all. Nobody. As far as I'm concerned, nobody worried about me.
Uh-huh.
And no rabbi or... There was never any assistance. I had very good friends, still from home, and they occasionally invited me to Birmingham, funny enough. But other than that, I was more or less a loner. And when I finished my nursery school diploma, which I passed, I went to do general nursing in Birmingham at Dudley Road Hospital. In the meantime, war was over, and a so-called uncle of mine arrived in England. He was repatriated. Had joined the South African forces in Johannesburg, went to Tobruk and was caught in Tobruk, taken back to Germany after 18 months when Italy capitulated, and he was released and sent to Brighton in England. I thought he was an uncle of mine because he was 12 years older than me, and my auntie, my so-called auntie in America, in New York, sent him my address and said, look up little Gita Marx. And he looked me up, and I was sweet 17. He fell madly in love with me. But he didn't say very much. We only spent 2 days together. He was very proud of me. He told me he thinks it's wonderful from a spoiled little brat that I was, that I'd made something of my life. He went back to South Africa and proposed by letter.
So this aunt in America was his sister? Or?
Was his sister.
Oh, okay.
And I took them to be an aunt and uncle because, you know, in Germany, anybody who's probably 5 or 6 years older than you had to address as aunt or uncle. Anyway.
So he was a friend of your parents, or what was the relationship?
No, his parents were friendly with my parents.
Oh, I see.
And my husband, to be, which I didn't realize then, he used to come to us on holiday because his mother had passed away at the age of 15.
Mm-hmm.
So he used to quite often come over. And he used to take me for walks, and I used to absolutely adore going with him for walks. Anyway, he went back to South Africa and he proposed, and that's how I came to get married at the age of 19 to a fantastic bloke who I absolutely adored. And he absolutely adored me, and it was a wonderful wedding, and a very sad wedding. The Rebbe made such a sad speech that I think everybody but myself cried under the chuppah and in shul.
Which year was it?
1946, December 1946. And
it was a wedding without your parents?
I had lost my parents.
Have you had any contact while you were still in England?
Yes, in England I used to correspond with them by an aunt of mine in Switzerland. And I must say the English authorities opened every letter which came into England, and it had a little number on top. It was censored. Mm-hmm. And I was called to the police more than once and asked why am I corresponding with enemy territory, you know, with a country like that. And in any case, you know, at the age of 16 we had to go in front of a tribunal.
I know, as enemy aliens.
But I had a wonderful maiden name, Marx. So whenever I went to the police here, they said to me, are you related to Marx and Spencer? And I used to say, yes, that's my uncle. And they used to say goodbye.
So you had postcards from your parents?
From my letters and postcards from my parents. Via Switzerland, via an aunt. And that stopped because my mother wrote they were being deported to Theresienstadt.
And that was
I think I got 1 or 2 postcards from Theresienstadt, and then it's completely...
Were you able to write letters to them?
Nothing anymore at all. And when war was over, I was looked for by somebody from my hometown who had been apparently with my parents in Theresienstadt. And she said, would you like to know the truth, what happened to your parents? Or would you like to live, you know, carry on living in hope? And I said, no. I think I was 17 or 18. I said, I would like to know the truth. I've had enough of worrying and so on. And she said, my father had taken very, very ill in the camp. And my mother apparently was working in the office. And I really believed in that. And then one day, and then I went absolutely hysterical. And then one day in the Star in Johannesburg, there was an article that the Americans had found little spools of information of Auschwitz. Mm-hmm. And if you wanted information, you could write into the Red Cross, which I did. And honestly, I think 2 or 3 years later, I got a letter from the Red Cross, and it just had photocopies of what had happened to my parents in Auschwitz. I couldn't even give it to you. My son confiscates everything. Mm-hmm. He just feels, you know, I mustn't get more upset, and he took these letters.
When was it that you received these letters?
Maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
So very recently.
Very recently. It took them at least 2 or 3 years to reply to my inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got 3 wonderful children. My youngest daughter is with me.
How old is she?
How old is she?
Yeah.
She's 40.
Uh-huh.
And my wonderful son-in-law, he's really terrific, is also here with me.
Oh, good.
And they came to the opening this morning of the Kindertransport. And I think it's wonderful to think that young children, well, that she's not so young anymore, that they take the interest, you know, in... She said, Mum, it's going to be terrible and I don't want you to be upset. We are coming with you.
Oh, wonderful. Right.
I think it's wonderful.
So, did you always speak to them about...
Not at all. Not at all. Even though I was married, I sometimes absolutely longed for my mother. I just felt that I'd been cheated. And my children have just been outstanding. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm. But did they ask questions where you were from?
Funny enough, my son, who's the oldest, he never touched the subject. But my grandson used to come to me since a baby, when he was about 6 months, till about 5 or 6 years. Every Thursday afternoon in South Africa, you know, it used to be the maid's day off.
Uh-huh.
And it was convenient for his mother to send Oliver to Granny. And he one day said to me, Gran, you speak so funny. Why do you speak so funny? And I said, Oliver, I tell you why. When you get much bigger, I don't want to upset you. He's very fortunate. He went to a Jewish day school in Johannesburg, and one day he came running to me and says, Gran, you don't have to tell me anything anymore. I know, I asked my Hebrew teacher today, and I said, my granny speaks funny, now you tell me why she speaks like that. When I came back from the last Kindertransport reunion, my son and daughter-in-law asked me various questions, and this particular child, was probably 18, 19 by then, was sitting in the far end of the lounge listening to every word I had to report back because he's extremely interested.
Mm-hmm. And do you speak to your husband about it? Or?
I lost my husband after 28 years.
Sorry.
And I'm remarried, also to a German Jew. He cannot understand. He thinks I'm not normal because I was with the Kindertransport. He's got no... How can I explain to you? He's got no, I wouldn't like to say feelings, but he just thinks that nobody can remain normal who's been through an experience like I have. So I can't explain to him, you know, that I'm completely normal and I've accepted my position.
And have you ever been back to Germany?
Yes. We went, I think my husband took me overseas in 1966. My first husband, and my children insisted that I go to my hometown and take a photo of my home, which I did. We flew into Düsseldorf, we took a car, I showed my husband exactly how to get to my home, we took photos, a movie, and then I was invited by the Bürgermeister much later, I think about 10 years ago. And the house is no longer standing, they're putting in a main road or something. And I've got the, what is it called? The freedom of the town. I was presented with a plaque.
Oh, right. Ehrenbürgerin. Oh.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And they made a big fuss of me. And in the newspaper, there was a party for me at the city council the first night that I arrived. I was sent bouquets of flowers with the ribbons of the town flowing. And the first day in the newspaper, it said, Jüdin kommt zurück zu ihrer Heimatstadt. So
what did you think of it? Or what were your feelings about that?
I'm sorry, maybe there's something really wrong with me, but I was very impressed that they made a big fuss, but I'm afraid it doesn't touch me. They can't get hold of me anymore. I've got no feelings for them.
Not even anger, or?
The anger dropped. My second husband was invited to Berlin. He's also a German Jew. And we had a wonderful, wonderful woman there sort of encouraging us to go around and see things. And she entertained us a week after we had arrived. And she said to me, Gita, you speak a wonderful German. Where did you learn it? And I said, I went to school and I learned German. She said, you speak with a certain dialect. And I told her I came from Hattingen. But she encouraged us. She sort of tried to explain, what really had happened. And she's very sorry, and we must accept, and we must try and forget.
That's what she said?
Yes. And funny enough, at the cemetery in Johannesburg, they also told us to forget, but always to remember. So maybe I'm not that bitter anymore, but I can't forgive them. I've got a certain amount of bitterness in me, and that's all I can say.
Have you still kept photographs of your parents?
Yes. When I did the interview for Spielberg, the lady was most impressed at the photos I've got from Germany. My mother sent me.
Oh, right.
And, but photographs don't help.
Yeah.
I feel they've taken the youth away, and possibly the best years of my life.
I agree, yeah. Was there any extended family you still had? Cousins or?
I had an aunt in Australia. She passed away, but naturally, not.
Yeah.
And I don't think there is much family left.
How about your brother?
My brother died in London about 4 or 5 years ago, but of natural.
And he stayed behind. He stayed in England.
Who?
Your brother?
My brother stayed in England. Came back, and he came back to England. And I'm going home now to my last the smallest, the youngest grandchild's bar mitzvah.
In South Africa?
In South Africa. And I had no intentions of coming back, but I was threatened. I better come back.
Oh, yes. How many grandchildren do you have?
6.
6? And
3. My middle daughter lives in San Diego. They moved to San Diego.
Oh, I see. So, but she's not the one with the son who's being bar mitzvah?
No, I've got a son who's got 3 children. I've got a second daughter who's now in San Diego, who's got 3 children. And the couple who are with me in London have no children.
So when are you going to go back to South Africa?
Next week, Thursday. I'm meeting up with, we're going on a tour now, on a motorcar cruise. We're going to Hagley near Starbridge, to very good friends of mine. From there we're going to Devon and Cornwall. I'm meeting up with one of the nurses I was nursing with, a Gentile nurse, who's been wonderful to me. And I'm meeting up with my nephew who lives in Devon.
Oh, good. And are you going to meet up with people from Banskort School?
I'm very upset about Banskort School.
Why?
Because I was asked to send photographs for the Wiener
Library.
Yes, for the Wiener Library, which I've done. And I met up with a fellow from Banskot School the last time I was here for a reunion, before I went to Israel. I was not advised that they had a reunion a week ago. So I was told by Professor Dent today that they had a reunion. I'm upset about that. And that's all I can say. But I feel they should have let me know about
definitely.
The reunion there. And I was in England, it's not that I wasn't.
Yeah.
A slipper.
There are some people now from Banskot School here.
Well, he just said to me today, Professor Dent, who I only remember as Lothar Baruch, they should have advised me.
Yeah. Ruth Hanauer is from Banskot, isn't she?
Is she?
I think she is. She told me once.
I know from the last reunion.
Yeah, she said she went to Banskot.
There's Arvin Rehbock, I don't know if she's here on the reunion.
I don't know her.
She was with me. She was Gerda Zecker. And I don't know who else, but I feel they should have let me know.
Oh, definitely.
That was an experience to go to Banskot. We were snowed in the first day that I was there.
Oh, yeah?
Freezing, absolutely freezing. And I was also, I should mention this, I was set in front of a big basin of potatoes and told to peel potatoes, and I didn't like the idea.
And were there also English children in Banskot?
Yes.
So how
She
many?
had to take in a certain amount of English children because for her, you know, for her, let's say for her pocket or for money, you know, money-wise, there were quite a few English children.
And did you befriend with the English children too?
Yes. No,
So you
we
mixed?
we mixed with the children. So, and I mean, after I left school, Anna Essinger became my friend. You know, she said I'd improved. I really don't know until this day what she was trying to get at. And I was very friendly with Bertel Kahn. It was the sister of Anna Essinger. And I was friendly with Lotte Kalischer. She was on the BBC documentary. I don't know what's happened to all those people. And I don't know.
And what does it mean for you to come back to the Kindertransport reunion?
I felt very emotional today. Very emotional about it. I mean, you know, Bertha has been to South Africa.
Yeah.
So, and I think I was one of the, I entertained Bertha and we had parties at my apartment. And I feel very emotional today to come back. But I also went back to the first Holocaust reunion in Israel. It had nothing to do with the Kindertransport. I heard about it and I went to Israel.
When was that?
Not sure if it was 1981 or 82.
But you wouldn't meet there people you
Not
knew
at all.
childhood, yeah.
In fact, there were very few, very few German Jews there, if any at all. I was actually told, what does a Yekko want?
It was more Eastern European.
Yeah, definitely. But we had the little badges on who we were, and we were looking, you know, for who we were looking, but I found no.
And do you see yourself as a Yekka?
I don't quite know how to explain to you. I phoned our rabbi to tell him I'm going to the final reunion. And he said, oh, the Yekkas again. And I said, you know, Rabbi, you better be careful what you say. My husband doesn't like it when anybody calls us a Yekka. He says, but you are, aren't you? So I said, yeah, I agree with you, I'm a Yekka.
Yeah.
You know the explanation.
Well, it's from the Jacke.
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting that at home you weren't very religious and now you are much more?
I think for my children's sake. I never used to light my candles, and my son, being the oldest, went to school, and a converted Jewess said to the children, whose mother doesn't light the candle?
Yeah.
And my son, of course, had to put his hand up. And since then, I've learned I better light my candles on Friday night. And usually the family gets together. You know, my son and my daughter, who's still in South Africa, we all three celebrate Friday night. You know, we make it a family dinner. And it's nice.
Oh, yeah. I think so. So they all your children are more or less religious now? Or?
They're not really religious, but they're certainly more religious than how I was brought up.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I mean, my grandson is having a bar mitzvah at the Orthodox shul, and my son-in-law is quite religious. In fact, my daughter keeps a kosher home. Oh,
so definitely more religious.
And my eldest granddaughter, who's 25, I think will be married next year in San Diego.
Good. So you have a nice big new family.
Yeah, lovely family. I tell you, I live in a very religious part of Johannesburg. And when I drive out on Saturday morning, the Jews don't really like me because they're very, very religious. And one of the ladies who has a baby nearly every 9 months was asked, aren't you going to stop having babies? And she said, no, I'm making up for the 6 million Jews which were murdered.
So is it a big Jewish community now?
Used to be a tremendously big Jewish community. I've been told that more than 25% have left the country, and yet the Jews have built an enormous new shul out in Sandton, which is one of the more expensive suburbs, and I believe it's well attended.
And is it mainly refugees? The Jewish
mainly
community?
No, mainly Lithuanian Jews and Latvian Jews.
Oh, right.
And I'm one of the few exceptions, but I've always been very well received, which apparently the German Jews weren't when they came to South Africa.
Oh, right.
But I seem to be able to mix and to get around.
There's a question which I always ask at the end of the interview. How would you describe yourself then today, as being English or South African or German or Jewish?
I feel very Jewish, definitely Jewish. And I don't make, you know, wherever I go and people say, oh, you're Jewish, I say to them, yes, I'm Jewish. And naturally I've got to accept South Africa as my home at the moment.
You've got a South African passport as well, or?
I've got both. I've got a European passport and a South African passport.
Okay. I think this is more or less what one can say. It's a very sad story.
It is, it's not. I don't wish it on my worst enemy.
No. Did you ever speak to your brother about it?
My brother became an atheist. He says there can't be a God to do to us what has happened. And I don't know. In fact, I must tell you that in Johannesburg I belong to the Foundation of Tolerance and Education, and I give lectures about the Holocaust to schools about 2 or 3 times a month.
And what do you...
And the children just cling on to me, you know. The teachers usually have to say, just let this lady go home now, and they cling and they want to know, and very interested, the kiddies.
And do you tell them your story, or do you speak generally?
No, I tell them my life story. I usually start now. depending on how old the children are, usually start now. If you had to leave home very quickly and suddenly and without your parents, it's an emergency, what would you pack into your suitcase? And it's very cute what they tell you.
I imagine, yeah.
And then I go into my own life story. And I gave a lecture in Johannesburg just after the Kindertransport film, or rather the play came out, not the film.
Was it on in Johannesburg?
Yes, yes. Barbara Ruben. She actually came up to my flat to make inquiries. And I'm in the program as assistant.
Congratulations, wonderful.
And I've lost my train.
It was about you giving courses for the...
Oh yes, so this Barbara Ruben told the Simpra Club they must get me in and I must speak. And I think the Jewish Benevolent as well. But at the Simpra Club, this was just before I went overseas last year, I gave this talk and people came up to me afterwards and they told me I must come again, I speak from my heart. And I came back from overseas and a woman phones me and she says, Gita, I hope you don't mind, but I appreciate your speech and I've made a recitation. She made the most wonderful recitation about my life. And on the 9th of November last year, our Rebbe made the most really touching address. I mean, most people probably fell asleep and didn't know about the Crystal Night. And
you can go ahead.
And I phoned him and I said, I've got this recitation. I faxed it to him, and he's publishing it for the New Year issue this year, because he says not only is it beautiful, it's of great historical value. She's written it beautifully, this woman. Not quite truthful, you know, she brought in a bit of fiction, but it was very well done.
So you're very active in Johannesburg, in the Jewish community?
I don't want to say I'm very active, but if people ask me, you know, to give lectures or for charity, I'm quite willing to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
So I will switch that off.
She should have published a list, you know.
Well, she has, I mean, in the
book. I haven't got the book yet.
Neither have I. I went through it with somebody else. And it is actually hard to find people whom you want to see. Because even if you go to the table, you don't, I mean, if you don't know anymore what they look like, it's very hard to find them.
Well, that's the trouble. There are one or two girls I would love to have met. I met Mrs. Fachler tonight, quite by coincidence. Her son was a rabbi in one of our big schools. And I became very friendly with her in Israel.
Oh, right.
She's been to Johannesburg.
And she is here as well?
Well, we were all walking out of the hall.
Oh, good.